I've lived in 5 different countries in the last 9 months, searching for the best place as a digital nomad to live. So in this video, I'm going to break down the pros and cons of every place that I've lived, so I can give you the recommendation on where I think you should go. So first of all, let me break it down by continent. So I've done some traveling in Europe and some traveling in Asia, specifically Southeast Asia. And there's massive differences between living in Europe and Southeast Asia. So first of all, Europe, the things that Europe has really got going for it is that there's a minimal time difference. So I run an e-commerce business, which means I work with UK customers, and I also coach UK e-commerce business owners predominantly, but also e-commerce business owners from around the world. And so I've got a bit of a reliance on being able to contact people on the UK time zone. So within Europe, it's only an hour or two difference, whereas in Southeast Asia, it's like 7 or 8 hours ahead. So there's that to consider. Also, there's a very familiar culture in Europe. The lifestyle is very easy to transition from living in the UK, feels very close to home in a way. There's a real high standard of living, obviously very developed country, so specifically in Spain, south of Spain near Marbella, and in Madeira, where I lived in Europe. Incredible infrastructure, healthcare, generally safe environments. Obviously, Madeira not so much with the infrastructure, but it's still backed by a wealthy country and wealthy continent in Europe, so you still get that developed feel over there. There's mild winters in those parts of Europe as well, which is lovely compared to being in the UK. So Madeira and Spain still 15, 20, 25 degrees sometimes, even through their autumn and winter months. And there's a real quieter lifestyle. Really, for focus, it's a lot more quiet. It's not as busy of a scene over there for nomads, so it's quite easy to just focus. Then Southeast Asia, on the different end of the spectrum, the things that Southeast Asia's got going for it. One of the biggest ones is the incredible value for money and the lifestyle that you get to live on such a small budget. The digital nomad infrastructure is massive in the places that I've lived in Southeast Asia. So they include Vietnam, Thailand and Bali, where I am now. Convenience is a massive thing in Southeast Asia. So food delivery, restaurants, very affordable. You get your laundry done for you, cleaners, all the day-to-day things that you need to be doing and keep on top of your life. A lot of those can be done by other people because it's so affordable in these countries to do that. And then there's also a strong community sense in Canggu, Bali as well, the biggest I've felt around the world so far. So now I'm going to break down specifically the countries that I've been to, the pros and cons, starting with Spain. So I lived in the south of Spain on the Costa del Sol near Marbella, and the things that Spain's got going for it is that it's a great quality of life, a very developed country, great food, both in terms of restaurants and in terms of supermarkets. Very easy to go to a supermarket and buy your food that you might want to prepare yourself. It's easy to adjust to life from the UK because there's so many British people living in the south of Spain, especially on the Costa del Sol. And it means it's quite easy to get over there and immediately feel like settled in. The cultural differences are much smaller than coming over to the other side of the world in Southeast Asia. And there's a minimal time difference, and it's quick and easy to get there from England. The downside is that there's not as much of a digital nomad scene unless you're in the heart of Marbella, and it's a lot more expensive to find accommodation, and it's not as convenient with all the things like cleaners or laundry and that sort of thing. If you want to get all that done for you, it's going to be on a much larger budget than it would be in Southeast Asia. But Spain, on the whole, has been the closest place to living in the UK. So if you want to just dip your toe in the water of being a digital nomad, I would seriously consider Spain. Beautiful place, much better weather than the UK, but a lot easier to transition compared to going to different parts of the world. Next up, Madeira. And Madeira has become a bit of a hotspot. There's definitely some areas of Madeira that are popular for digital nomads now. And we stayed in one of those, a little town called Ponta do Sol. And the things that Madeira does amazingly is beautiful landscapes, just some of the most amazing scenery that I've ever seen on this little island with dramatic cliffs and black sand beaches and natural rock pools and swimming pools. Amazing. There's loads to explore there. There's no time difference between Madeira and the UK. There's great weather throughout the winter, and there is a bit of a nomad community, as I mentioned before. Downside is that it's not as inspiring because it's not as easy to come across real high-performing entrepreneurs as in some other countries. So not as convenient. There's no food delivery, difficult to access real high-quality gyms, those sort of things. So a great place to escape the winter very easily on the same time zone as the UK. Great place to get into good weather. Amazing island to explore and a good place to live. but it's not necessarily for people who want to experience working in other places with loads of convenience and with a real luxury lifestyle, which you can live on Southeast Asia for a much smaller budget. Okay, now let's move over to the places that I've lived in Southeast Asia. So I now want to tell you about Da Nang, which is in Vietnam. Now, it's been the best value for money place that I've been to so far. So if you're looking for somewhere very cheap, but that still gives you a great lifestyle, I'd seriously say Da Nang in Vietnam is one of the best places in the world for this. It's a bit of an up-and-coming digital nomad hotspot. I think it's still fairly early to be going to Da Nang, but over the next 4 or 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes one of the biggest hotspots. The things that are amazing about Da Nang is the cafes and the workspaces. The coffee is the best coffee that I've ever had. I'm not a huge coffee drinker, but if you are, you're going to love Da Nang. The coconut coffee, the salted coffee is just amazing as you work there and sip on one of those coffees. I never really understood the coffee hype until I went to Da Nang. So convenient, laundry, cleaners, food delivery. You're in a city, so transport is very easy to get on the back of a grab bike or hire your own bike and get around. There's good accommodation options. You'd want to look for somewhere near the beach really, and a high-rise accommodation apartment is the sort of thing that you want to live in. Or you can live in the nearby place called Hoi An, which is only about half an hour drive away from Da Nang, and that's got some really nice views of rice terraces, whereas Da Nang is like a city feel with high-rise buildings. And then the benefit of Da Nang as well is that you've got a city right next to a beautiful white sand beach with palm trees, so you can do a bit of both. Then in terms of the cons of Da Nang, is I'd say it's not as inspiring in terms of environment. It's not as developed as other places that we've been. And there's not as high performing entrepreneurs. Maybe because it's obviously so cheap and so affordable, it maybe attracts a more of a first time digital nomad like me, because of the cost of living over there. So not as inspiring. The time zone, this is the first time we went away and we were 7 hours ahead. It's 6 hours in British summertime, but it's 7 hours in the winter ahead of the UK. There's a community there, but it's not as strong as places we've been in Bali. So summary of Da Nang, amazing value for money. You can get loads of work done, it's really convenient, but it may feel a little isolating if you stay long term, just because you're so far away. Now I'm traveling with my girlfriend, and so we've always got each other, so we haven't looked that intently at like what community options there are, but I'm sure because there's such a big area for working remotely in Da Nang, I'm sure you wouldn't have too many issues finding a good community there. Okay, now on to where we've lived in Thailand. So we lived on the islands of Koh Samui and Koh Phangan. And the first thing to say about the pros of those places is the incredible scenery. Beautiful nature, most amazing island, it's white sand beaches, palm trees, jungles. Also the next best thing is the food. The food in Thailand has been unlike anywhere else in the world, the best food I've ever eaten. Super affordable, but the most delicious food. Like you'd find yourself eating a massaman curry or a pad thai on a white sand beach with palm trees and beautiful blue clear waters, and some of the most amazing scenes. Very, very convenient for food and laundry and cleaning again, and great if you want to combine work and productivity with a lifestyle where you can explore and see the world and feel like you're having a typical travel lifestyle, but also doing work alongside it. The downside is that it's quite closely linked to that as well. So the cons is that it feels a little bit like holiday mode, because it is a holiday destination and everyone there, or a lot of people in those islands, were tourists or backpackers, definitely a lot of Westerners. So it doesn't have as much of a place or a feel of working from there. It's more so about holidaying. There is not as strong of a community because a lot of people are backpacking. There's not as many nice co-working spots, and high quality gyms are limited as well. So overall on those Thai islands, amazing if you want a mix of work and travel. If you want a more laid-back lifestyle, but not somewhere that you want to settle in longer term if you're going to build a business and really just be focused on building a business. I'm sure you could, but not compared to other parts of the world. Now, on to Bali. So the last place I'm going to talk about now is Bali. And I'm going to break it down into the two areas of Bali that we've been living. So first of all, Canggu and Ubud, because they're very different places. So Bali has a strong digital nomad community, abundance of co-working spaces, the highest quality gyms that we've seen, very convenient transport, food, cleaners, that sort of thing. Has everything you need to live longer term. because of the community feel and because it's so well set up. Now, the downsides of Canggu and Bali in general is the visa system. It's a little bit more complicated than I was expecting, a bit confusing to get that sorted, but we do need a visa if you're going to come from the UK. Food poisoning is a major issue. And this is the worst part about Bali, is I didn't have any issues in all the other countries that I've travelled, but since coming to Bali, I've had a couple of bouts of food poisoning. Not enough to put me in hospital or put me on a drip, but it is so common to get an illness of some sort while in Bali. So you can almost expect it to get ill a few times if you're going to be coming over here. And it is a real negative impact. And the biggest thing for us as nomads is it has a big negative impact on productivity. Traffic is bad in Canggu, is a downside, and it's not if you're after nature, Canggu isn't absolutely stunning, the actual part of Canggu where you'll be living. So if you've come to have like this Bali retreat and to see the most gorgeous country that Bali can be, you need to get out of Canggu and into the nature spots. So don't expect it to be Canggu looking pretty all the time. So my thoughts on Canggu is that it is perfect if you're in the early stage of building a business and if you want to just focus and get around a community, get around people that inspire you, and get around convenience and everything you need for long-term locking into working on a business. Now, Ubud is where we're at right now, and that's more inland in Bali, and it's a very different feel from Canggu. The best things about Ubud is that there's a great mix for travel and still working, because you can concentrate and work in co-working places or in your villa, but also there's rice terraces to explore, there's waterfalls, plenty of things to see, nice nature around Ubud. It's more cultural, there's more temples, there's more locals here in Ubud compared to Canggu. Still convenient, and you can get nice accommodation. You tend to get bigger and value for money apartments coming to Ubud compared to Canggu. The downsides is that there's still traffic, especially in the centre of Ubud. There's not as much of a nomad community sense as there is in Canggu. Canggu is literally just for working abroad. It's not really a touristy place, whereas Ubud, there's lots of people that are here just to explore the place as well. Not as many high quality gyms in Ubud, and the same issue as Canggu with the whole food poisoning and visas situation here, which is a more of a Bali thing. So to summarise Ubud, it's very different from Canggu. It's ideal if you want to be travelling more alongside your work, but still get a real feel for Bali culture. And it's a good environment to work, even though you can do the exploring as well. So now onto the summary, onto my recommendation for where is right to you. And I want to caveat this by saying there is going to be no such place as a perfect place. Now, after doing quite a bit of travelling, I've realised that there's always going to be pros, there's always going to be cons of every place that you travel to. So it's what you resonate with most is what's going to make the decision for you as to where you should go and live. So my recommendation, if you're like me and if you're looking for the best place to focus and to build and scale your business, and you want to be surrounded by like-minded people that inspire you, I'm going to say that Canggu in Bali is the best place for this. If you want to have a relaxed lifestyle, out of the places that I've been to, the best place to have a real relaxed lifestyle and build your business at the same time is Koh Phangan. That's hands down been the most beautiful scenery that I've been to, with a nice relaxed lifestyle and all the benefits that I mentioned earlier on in the video. If you're looking for the best value for money and focus at the same time, then I would recommend Da Nang. Bit of a hidden gem, but up and coming for digital nomads. So now there are my recommendations, but what am I actually doing? Am I going to put my money where my mouth is? Well, the answer is yes, because where I'm going next is going to spend a few weeks back in the UK now, in the summertime, in June and July, and then I'm going to head back out and we're going to come back to Bali. We're going to come back to Canggu in Bali, but we're also going to go to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, because I've heard that a lot of good things about Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, so we're going to try that out for 4 weeks as well. But the reason we're coming back to Canggu in Bali is because we're in this season of wanting to really focus, and we found it to be the best place for productivity and focus so far. It's exactly what we're looking for at this stage of our business. So with that said, let me know in the comments where you're planning on going, and if you enjoyed this video, if it's given you some context, let me know as well. With that said, leave the video a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.